Welcome to Retail Retold, the stories behind how that store landed in your neighborhood. I'm Chris Ressa, in conversation with the people and stories shaping retail and real estate. Brought to you by DLC. Welcome to Retail Retold, everyone. Today I am joined by Rebekah Kondrat. Rebekah is the founder and CEO of Kondrat Retail. We have a pretty cool show today. I'm excited for it. It's a little different. We're going to talk about the 5 things DTC founders should know before opening a physical store. I'm excited for this one. Rebekah has a lot of experience in this. Welcome to the show, Rebekah.
Thank you. So happy to be here, Chris.
So, Rebekah, tell us a little bit about who you are and your career history.
Yeah. Okay. Oof. Loaded question. All right. So I am Rebekah Kondrat, CEO of Kondrat Retail. We are a boutique agency that helps largely direct-to-consumer brands enter and expand their physical retail channels. So entering into retail, everything from figuring out a concept, what is the strategy, connecting with real estate partners, et cetera, all the way through build out, construction management, setting up operations so you can open your doors and sell to customers. So from a background standpoint, I've actually been, in retail for 20 years. I'm kind of that retail lifer, like a Ron Thurston type, if you will, but started off in big box. So like Starbucks and Apple were where I cut my teeth in retail. So, not tiny stores, but now I help a lot of like boutique style direct to consumer brands move into retail. So after Starbucks and Apple, I went to Warby Parker, kind of before really they were Warby Parker as we know them today, right when they were on the precipice of kind of transforming into that. And then after that, went to Outdoor Voices and Joybird Furniture, and then kind of started doing what I do now. So that's my story.
I love it. A lot of different brands you worked for. What were you doing for these brands? Were they all in the store? Were some of them out of the store? What were you doing as like your day-to-day for these brands?
Yeah, so I really have that like started off literally as a barista, pouring coffee, made your cappuccino, perfect weight, all of that, helping Bobby Flay before his morning, show, all of those things. And then from there, I kind of realized that I had this kind of knack for figuring out operations, decent project management skill set that grew into a pretty substantial project management skill set as I grew with these brands. And so with Starbucks, by the time I left, I was running a couple of stores. So in kind of an area manager capacity. And then when I went over to Apple, Apple's a little bit of a different beast, right? The stores are very, very large. The population is much larger than, a single Starbucks store. So I started off running kind of their people leadership is what they called it back then, doing workforce management, scheduling, overseeing launches, things like that. And then eventually training teams that were to open new stores in new countries. So I was involved in the training of the Hong Kong team, which was a great experience, and then several other stores throughout New York. So by the time I got to Warby Parker, though, that's where things really kind of solidified for me that I wanted to be involved in retail and stay in retail for pretty much my entire career. I came into Warby, it was pretty new to the game. Had a couple of stores. I think there were 3 that were currently open, and we were working on opening 2. So initially when I came in, I was in operations, ran the Upper East Side store, then eventually started kind of training new leadership as they started adding stores. By the time I left, there were 35 stores around that number. Now there are, of course, many, many more than that, and more opening all the time. And I went over to Outdoor Voices and kind of did the same thing. So when I got to Outdoor Voices, I oversaw the entire US, all of the stores in the US. So opened stores in several states for them. And then it became more of like a strategic position, if you will, and less operational. And then went on to Joybird Furniture as their director of retail. And that was my last in-house position before I started doing this.
Fantastic. Really cool experience. I think you bring a lot of insights on how stores get up and running,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for that. Before we get into that, we have a segment called Clear the Air. It's a little bit to get to know Rebekah more. I have 3 questions for you. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1. What is one skill you don't possess but wish you did?
Ooh, one skill I don't possess but wish I did. I think I'm really good at like execution. Like if you give me a creative something or other, I will go and make it happen. But sometimes conceptualizing that, like I a little bit I stand back and I look at designers. I work with designers a lot, obviously from like the store concepting side, and I'll project manage the process, but like the way that they can look at something say on a website and then transform it into something physical is like totally lost on me how to do that. But once you actually have it designed, I can help you build it. So, that's something that I wish I could do a little bit more, and I'm working on it.
Yeah,
Getting the
that's
creativity.
that totally. But I think a lot of people have that. Some people have that left brain creativity side, and
Yeah.
typically they're not as good on strategy or tactics and execution. They're, you know, design focused, creative focused, and oftentimes the opposite is true as well. So,
Yep.
and that's why retailers typically have large ones have both skill sets in house in the organization, right? A company like
Exactly.
Apple and things like that.
Yep.
Okay, I like that. Question 2. When is the last time you tried something for the first time?
Oh, try something. Oh, wait, I'm doing it right now. So I am training for my first marathon.
Oh, wow.
It
Congrats.
is like no joke. I'm terrified, but thank you. Very excited.
Are you doing the New York Marathon?
I'm not I actually I will that's my plan is to do New York, but I'm doing Walt Disney World first
Oh,
because I get a lot of pictures with Mickey and all the characters, so it feels like a treat instead of like a slog to run 26 miles or whatever it is.
so have you always had a passion for running?
No. Okay, so I taking it way back, I actually landed in New York because I was studying classical ballet. So I've been a dancer, funny enough, not creative. I never was a choreographer, but was a dancer. And so when that time kind of sunset, that like season of life kind of sunset for me, I was like, I need a new like physical thing to do. And my mom, of all people at the time, was like, hey, let's go start running together. And I was like, okay, sure, no problem. So we started registering for races and doing races, like short ones, like 5Ks and stuff together. And so we've been building up now for the last 10 years and we're ready to do a marathon. So she's actually running it with me.
Oh, that's amazing. That's such a
Yeah.
cool thing.
Yeah.
Congrats. Are
Thank you.
we breaking world records here?
Oh my gosh, no.
I'm just
I'm running like 11-minute miles.
That's
It's
perfect.
no, it's
I'm just kidding.
not fast. So,
Okay, next question.
okay.
What is one thing most people agree with, but you do not?
Ooh, one thing was, okay. I don't know if this is gonna be like too philosophical or out of left field. I do not believe in that there is one person for everyone, like the whole soulmate concept.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't believe in that. I have a husband, I have 2 children, I love them all very much, I love my husband very much, but and he actually agrees with we've had a conversation about this. I'm like, "I think we were together at the right time, we both liked each other, and we made a commitment, right? But I don't think that my only you were the only option, right? I could have been just as happy and had a great life. Like,
Sure.
hear me out. You could be happy and have a great life making a different choice, right? So, like, this whole concept of like, "Oh, if I don't find my soulmate, I won't ever be happy," whatever, like, which honestly, you don't even have to get married to be happy. I don't believe that either. But like, you know what I mean? I don't believe that there's one person for everyone.
What a unique answer. So
Yeah.
it's a very unique answer. That's cool. So my answers have been I've asked this question to a lot of people. I love this question, and I get such incredible responses from philosophical ones like that to someone saying, "I don't think that everything happens for a reason." Some
Right.
of that to the funny, which is, uh, this one guy came on and he said that this was a tough question, and he's like, I prepped for it, so I I phoned a friend and I went to the family, and we all agree that dessert doesn't have to come after dinner, and you can have ice cream before pizza. I said, and so and so
Controversial.
so the answers come from all over the place. So I love that answer. Great answer. Pretty cool.
I don't know, you might get some letters about that one. What? Who is this person?
No, fascinating. It's pretty interesting perspective. Okay, thank you for playing that game with me. I wanna move on to the topic of the day, which is the 5 things every DTC founder should know before they open a store. You'll tell us what they are. You want to go in like order from 5 to 1? People like
Sure.
this in order.
Yeah, I don't actually know that I have them in, like, ranked order, though.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
So we'll go down, and then you'll
Okay,
see what it is, and I'll opine on my thoughts on it. So
great.
let's go. Number 5. What is number 5? Even though it's a silly ranking, but let's call it number 5. What's number 5?
Okay, number 5, I actually think this is number 5. So, I believe the whole, like, pop to perm, let's test and then stay if things work is a total fallacy and a myth and, like, kind of the backwards way to go about stores.
Wow. And so I there's a lot of pop-up talk in the world, and you're
Yep.
helping brands open up stores.
Some of them are pop-ups too.
Some of them are
Maybe
pop-ups.
the founders are listening.
So give me more.
Okay, so hear me out on this. I get the want to test, right? And I actually totally believe in testing and iterating, right? I worked for Warby Parker during the whole bus thing where they drove the bus around and they got data on each location where they stopped, and that then informed where they opened their stores. So totally understand the test. However, the problem for me with moving into a space on a let's try it out and maybe stay basis is if you go in and you think I'm only signing this lease for 6 months or I'm doing a percentage rent deal or something like that for 6 months, so I don't want to spend a lot of money up front. I'm going to spend as little on the capex as possible. I'm going to get like cheap fixtures and, maybe not spend a lot on the labor and all of this. What ends up happening if you actually decide to convert that to permanent is you now have fixtures that are falling apart in 8 months because you decided to get the ones that would only last for 6. Maybe you need to overhaul your workforce because you weren't so careful about hiring. Like, it doesn't quite, you end up having to redo work and probably spend more money, which is what you were trying to avoid in the beginning on the back end. So, and I think this is where your expertise comes in, Chris. There is actually a better way where you can still mitigate the risk of opening a store without going this pop to perm model. You can sign a longer term lease and you can have really favorable kickout clauses and all of this, and maybe even get some TI, dare I say, and you could have the landlord build half of your store for you. And then you can actually get a true test. So that's my myth.
Yeah. So a couple of things with that. It's a really interesting one. In general, I think the myth that I talk about a lot is people say that it's less expensive to be online than it is in physical stores. And where I change that is it's it might be less cost of entry, but to scale, it's clearly more expensive online. And that's why there's very few e-commerce brands that are actually profitable. And there are many brick and mortar brands that are. And so, but there is in general, unless you're going into like this perfectly built out space from this previous retailer that, they were a fashion retailer, you're a fashion retailer, and the space like just works perfectly and you don't need to do a ton. When it's not that, the cost of entry could be more expensive. But I would say this one, I think one of the things just in life, I think it's hard to be successful when you're kind of one foot in the door, one foot out. You're already thinking about like, how do I make sure an escape plan if you're not all in, right? When they opened their
Exactly.
website, when they opened the website, they were all in. But the store, they're like kind of like testing. And if you look at like Amazon, when they test, like and they have different balance sheet, no doubt. But when they test, they're like signing 10-year leases, long-term leases, and they're doing, you know, um, fancy builds outs with lots of tech. And that's not what I'm saying, but they truly test to see if it works, right? If you want the store to work, you have to give it everything you have, put your best brand presence forward, and kind of junky fixtures and this whole. I don't think it has to be artificial intelligence everywhere, but if it's not a good presence to the market, it could be in the dynamite location. But I think you're going to have a challenge. So
Yeah.
I'm not against temp to perm. I think there's a place for temp to perm. And I think there's a place for just pop-ups. There's some, right? Spirit, seasonal ones, Spirit, Halloween City. These groups have been doing pop-ups seasonally for years, very profitably. There's a place for that. And I don't think there's not a place for it, but I think there's this myth that it's the answer, and probably more would convert to long-term profitable business if they went in like as if they were they're signing a 6-month temp agreement, but they're actually going in as if they were going to be there for 30 years. And I think that's the punchline. If you go in behaving like you're only be there for 6 months, then you end up with sometimes less than you desire. If you sign a 6-month agreement, but you go in with the concept that you will be there for 30 years and you're going to try to actually make it, that means you're going to invest more. That means the people are going to really matter that you hire. It's not just some person you hired. It's like a real store person who's really strong in retail, right? Because the people matter. And so to me, that's the piece about the temp to perm. The best success I've seen are the people that go in and they might sign a temp agreement, but their intent is truly to be there for the next 10 years. Not that, well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's anything in life. Isn't it hard to be successful when you go in with that mindset?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I also very much believe in that kind of I'm like hearing Tim Gunn in my head right now, like make it work. Like it works if you make it work, kind of, you know? I mean, that's not always 100% true. Sometimes there are locations that are duds and that just happens and you close
Sure.
them and you move on, right? But I think in the example that you gave of like Spirit, I would say they've committed to pop-ups. If you're going to commit to pop-ups and you have a kit of parts, you know how to very efficiently build those out very quickly. It's like highly repeatable, highly scalable for them. It's I think if you're going to test pop-ups, do it, but don't do the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm not sure what this is kind of thing.
Right. That doesn't work in a lot of things in life, not just
Yeah,
retail.
it's
Okay.
true.
What's number 4?
Okay, all right. Number 4, actually, I think this is a good segue here is, and I'm going to like put an asterisk by this and qualify, but it's not that hard to run a profitable store. So, I think in your example of all of these like founders who, in their defense, have never run a store. So it's just an unknown, right? So it seems hard or it seems difficult or the number on the lease seems really high. But the truth is, if you have good, and here's my qualifier, your product has to be good. People have to want to buy it, right? Because it doesn't matter where your store is. It could be in the middle of Times Square. If it's not worthy of purchase, then you're not going to be profitable. And you do have to at least somewhat get the location right. Location does matter. So I think if you can get those two things in line, there are other factors like labor is your largest controllable cost, right? You can figure that out once you figure out your traffic patterns within a couple of months. So, it's rare to be profitable in the first like 6 months and sometimes even 12 months, but it's actually not hard to, in the long term, run a profitable store.
I love the answer. I think that, and I think that's proven out. There are way more profitable brick and mortar stores than there are e-commerce businesses. And there are many factors for that. But this is a proven path to profitability
Yep.
over the course of centuries. And I think that we're there's still this like, how do we get e-commerce profitable? And I think one of the things we've learned is without stores, it's really hard, right? There's that stat going around Twitter that something like there's no $1 billion DTC digitally native brand that doesn't have stores,
Yep.
something like that. And so I think that's proof in the pudding. You've run them, so I'll let you be the expert on the difficulty of it. Um, but I love the answer. Okay, number three.
Okay. Okay. So number three, I'm going to go with location is not the first step to entering physical retail. Finding a location is not step one to entering physical retail. So if I had a nickel for every time that I started talking to a brand, like when I come into the equation, a lot of times what will happen is a brand will say, we've leased this location because it was so great and the terms were so great. And now we need to build a store, but they don't know what their concept is. They don't really know what the purpose, like what the value proposition of the store is. So my viewpoint is the concept and the value proposition of your store actually dictates your location, not the other way around.
Totally agree. There's certain locations that are.
You have to disagree with me about something. Come on.
I'll get there. I'll get there.
Okay.
But this is not new. This is
Right.
this is old. We've seen entrepreneurs who have who are just entrepreneurial and they like see a space and they're like, they want to open up something and they don't have the concept yet. And so it's definitely the inverse to that. Whereas here's my concept. How do I go find the right location for sure? I think that's a great, great point. Um, and there's, there's different types. There's we call them, there's impulse locations. So there's things that are impulse, there's destination driven locations. There's some that are in the neighborhood. There's some trade areas that are draw regionally. There's a lot of different factors depending on your demographic, your psychographic, and everything like that. One of a friend of the show, her name's Rachel Bider. She's an entrepreneur. She has something called press massage. So did something that I think was even a little bit different, same kind of idea, a little more technology focused on the Warby. Not as practical, but from a sales perspective. But what she did for her locations is she'd be like between like two markets or two locations. And she would put up a dummy website and say coming soon. If you here, if you sign up, if send me your email and I'll give you a gift card, or sign up and put you on the mailing list and you get the free first massage free or something like that. And whichever one had a lot more traction, she got like real intel from the market that there was demand for a massage in that location.
Smart. I
So
mean, absolutely.
I thought that was really scrappy entrepreneurial for a
Yeah.
brand, but she already had her concept, right? She was the right. This wasn't like this wasn't this was not the inverse that you were talking about. So
Yes.
anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
What are we on now?
Number
Three?
two. Number two.
Two? Oh, we're on two. Okay. I'm going to go with stores are not a set it and forget it exercise.
Okay.
So I think, we've seen this happen in a pretty public way with department stores, depending on which one you look at. Some are worse than others, where like they literally haven't changed anything in 50 years, or whatnot. Or maybe they've tested a few little things, but they haven't actually fundamentally made changes to the way that they do business, the layout of their stores, their customer journey, their, kind of traffic, all of that. Um, and I guess the kind of going back to your earlier example of like D2C and websites, like a D2C brand would never put up a website and then just leave it alone for 10 years, let alone 5 months. You're like constantly like testing and iterating and tweaking. My argument is stores should be the same. I'm not saying like close it, rip it down to the studs and rebuild it, but it should be constantly like a moving animal where it's like able to be modular, it's able to be iterative. I really think that there's something in this, like, not to use a buzzword, but like store of the future around modularity and being able to kind of change up the store very quickly as customer behaviors change.
That's interesting, and we've certainly seen that, right? Because the more you leave it, uh, the worse it gets, and then it's hard to get those customers back. After they've decided, "No, I'm not going here anymore," it's really hard to bring them back, and I think pivoting to what they want today is clearly important, so that's an interesting one. I don't hear too much about that, but an interesting one. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are a couple of like spaces that are doing something like this, trying to be like rotational, and every, like Story was kind of the OG of this, where they would change it up every month or every quarter or whatnot. But I'm
Don't you
talking
love
about
the
like,
restaurants? Don't you love the restaurants that they have, like, the seasonal menus? Like,
right.
every in the fall, like, I'm waiting, like, "What's the new menu?" There's a restaurant literally by my house, and I'm like, "What's gonna be the fall menu?"
Totally. Well, every brand does seasonal drops. You
Right.
have seasonal products in every brand. So why would you go and then like hang them on the same exact fixtures that you like haven't touched in a million years, or you have the same hero imagery up on your walls that you did 5 years ago? Like, let's kind of be a little bit smarter about how to freshen up the stores too.
Very, very cool. Uh, what is the number one thing DTC founders should know before they open up their first store?
Number one thing, it's not rocket science, so don't hold your breath on this one, but it's that people matter more than technology, right? Who you hire and them being a fit for the brand and able to represent the brand in the way that you want them represented is more important than having QR codes, than having touch screens, even dare I say, than having things like buy online, pick up in store. So I think, we've kind of seen over and over again that if the in-store experience is a great one, that kind of covers over a multitude of sins, if you will, on the brand side. But you can have all of the fancy bells and whistles and technology, but if you go in and that associate doesn't give great service, or worse, everybody gets to hear about it all over Twitter and Instagram and Yelp, etc.
Yeah, it's the old adage, I'll use a restaurant one. If like you're talking about, if you go to the food's great at the restaurant, but you can't get your water refilled, nobody
Yeah,
enjoys that, right?
it's
So
true.
nobody enjoys that. And I think I like to say this about real estate too, which is it's not location, location, location. It's people, people, people. The people behind the location make it work. Um, and I think uh, in real estate, we don't talk about that enough. In retail, it's talked about all the time. So I'm surprised there. I think it's probably this tech background saying I can bring the tech to the store. But I would think that a lot of them, when they're opening up their digitally native brands, like the people on the digitally native brand, the people behind the brand matter. They matter a lot in the store too.
Yep, exactly. And I think, I'm really happy to see this kind of turning a corner, and I think it's taken, what's happened over the last year and a half or so for the gig economy workforce to really kind of be valued, because right now they're in very short supply, right? Like, I'm trying to hire for several stores right now, and it's not easy. So, and I think that's due to several factors. I think a lot of people are reevaluating what they want to do, but I think too the frontline retail workforce really wants to be recognized for driving the brand, because they are. So they're kind of demanding that now, which is, in my opinion, a good thing.
Interesting. Uh, I hadn't looked at it that way, and that's a really cool way to look at it. Great list. Let's go through the list one more time. What was the
Oh my gosh.
five? So it was
Geez, I don't now I have to see. I didn't have it in order. So I think the first one was pop the pop to
after
perm
her.
myth. Don't succumb to the myth of pop to perm,
Yep.
right? The second one was it's not hard to run a profitable store
Right.
with the asterisk of you have to have good product and you have to have a decent location.
Yep.
Um, the third one was location is not the first step in opening your store,
Yep.
knowing what the purpose of your store is.
Yep.
The fourth one was retail is not a set it and forget it exercise. And the fifth one was
Keep-
people are greater than technology.
I love it. Okay, great list. Um, let's talk about something. Yeah, you're in the weeds. You're doing this now. What's a is there a digitally native brand that we can go check out of a store that you recently opened?
Oh my gosh. Well, actually, so we just had two stores open for Sarah Flint. They are a luxury shoe store that's, you know, say kind of D2C story, right? These luxury shoes cost over $1,000. They're made in the same factory as Hermes and Manolo Blahnik, but the price is significantly less. And frankly, the brand, she's just such a lovely person and founder. So I don't have favorites, but it's a lovely brand. So go check it out. We're on in Soho on West Broadway, and we also recently opened in Georgetown in DC.
Excellent. And so were they were they in markets all over? Like, were they shipping everywhere as a digitally native brand?
Yeah, pretty much shipping everywhere in the US for sure, and I think a few select international countries. Yeah.
Got it.
But again, much like you noted at the beginning, I think there does come a point in the life of a digitally native brand where they start to go like, "Okay, our performance marketing is slowing down. Our customer acquisition costs are rising. And we either need to, double down on some sort of like influencer channel, we need to go into wholesale, or we need to consider owned retail." And so I think, eventually every brand has this crossroads where, and, again, like buzzword alert, but like they start to think about how do we really truly become an omni-channel brand?
Yep. the so that's a now I have a bunch of questions because you're on the front lines that we didn't talk about or prep for. Uh,
Okay.
so so one is you set up these stores for you as you're looking at them and as you're counseling some of these founders. Is success profitability in the store, like four wall EBITDA, or is it if we open the store and our online sales increase? Like, talk to me about success.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. I think the answer is yes. And however, it pains me to my core if a store is not profitable. So my belief is all stores should be four wall EBITDA profitable and contribute to that halo effect that, in real estate, we know, so well. That's like as soon as a store opens in a market, you see the lift. I've seen figures as high as 60% prior to the store opening, things like that. There are different reports that, depending on who's putting them out, there are different percentages. But the bottom line is when a store opens in a market, the e-commerce sales rise too. So I think it's both. So brands care about the stores not being underwater. I think break even or better is a phrase that I hear a lot. And I'm like, oh, it'll be better because I refuse for it to just be break even. But I think there is also a desire to understand what does this do for our e-commerce sales? What does this do for our ability to reach customers, to collect email addresses, to collect phone numbers? Like there's a big want to, once you have a customer right in front of you, what information can you get about them so that you can then better serve them in the future?
Sure. The Yeah, and I'm sure none of the stores you worked for previously would have accepted opening unprofitable stores. So I'm sure
No,
eat those.
no. And in fact, they closed the ones that weren't profitable. So yeah.
So as you mentioned, there's this crossroads that happen where retailers or digitally native brands start to think about stores and be omni-channel. I've heard things like typically at about $10 million in revenue, they're thinking about it because it's hard to maintain profitability. Or I've heard Series C, fundraising. I've heard a lot of things. One of the things that's interesting is You mentioned um, the brand Sarah Flint,
Hmm.
and, luxury brand, boutique and we're starting to see, like, the Warby Parkers, where I wouldn't say it's Starbucks, but what I would say is, do you think we're going to see digitally native brands, like, on every corner like a Starbucks? Are there going to be
Ooh,
those? I wouldn't say Warby Parker's that, but they're getting closer to that than they are, like, having one in New York, Vegas, LA, and Miami, right? I don't think, like, brands can only operate in having physical stores in New York, Miami, LA, Chicago, San Francisco, and call it.
yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm a big and this is a topic for another time, but I'm also a big fan of, like, the tertiary market, right? Like, maybe New York is not the first market that makes sense for you, and it depends on the brand. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not, and you should go and open in, I don't know, Denver or Charlotte, North Carolina, or Boise, Idaho, or something, you know? Um, so another topic for another day. Will we see brands, D2C brands on every corner? I think it depends on the product and
Sure,
on the size of the addressable market, right? So you have, let's take like luxury footwear. It is a huge market, but I think for a brand like Sarah Flint, and this is just like disclaimer, this is not like part of their strategy or anything like that. I'm just using them as an example. I think for a brand like them, it doesn't make sense, at least at
sure.
this juncture, to even go and open in every state.
Right.
Like, let's really target, like, go where our customers are, or
Totally.
go where our future customers are. You can imagine who those are. It's business women. It's like where the wedding industry is really strong. Bachelorette, like Nashville would be a great market for them. Those kinds of things. I think for a brand like Warby Parker, when you look at the addressable market of what percentage of the population needs vision correction, that's where that one is like a little bit nuanced because it's a medical device and it's a fashion vehicle, so the product is a little bit different than like a luxury shoe, say.
Sure.
So I think potentially, but going back to also Starbucks, people drink coffee every day. Like I
In
will out
every part of
myself and
the
say I go to Starbucks almost every day, right? So and spend my money there, and they get a lot of money from me every year, and I do it happily. But like that's because it's that kind of consumable resource. So, yeah.
Totally. Okay. Well, listen, we're running short on time. This has been great. I wanna bring us to the last part of the show. I call it retail wisdom. I've got 3
Oh, I'll
questions.
try to be wise.
There
Okay.
you go. Uh, 3 questions again. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do
Alright.
it.
Question 1. What extinct retailer do you wish would come back from the dead?
Oh, what extinct retailer? Okay, I don't mean to like non-answer your question, but just because we were talking about department stores earlier, I I'm a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel fan. I don't know if you've watched that show.
I love that show.
Okay, great. So I was watching it, and when Mrs. Maisel, when she works in the department store, but it's like a hot hop-in place to be, and the service is so good. They know everyone's name, they know everyone's lip shade. They're like so catered to, and it's just such a contrast to what we see in retail today. Like there's a lot of bad service out there. And I want to return to the era of the department store where like the service was amazing, like that, you
So,
know?
it is a non-answer. This is one I'm
Sorry.
have to challenge you. Give me a department store.
Um, I mean, the one that comes top of mind is Lord& and Taylor, but like Lord& and Taylor in like Mrs. Maisel version Lord& and Taylor,
Okay,
right? Not the shadow of its former self, Lord& and Taylor, that like I experienced before it closed in New York.
got it. Okay, number 2. What is the last item over $20 you bought in a store?
Oh, I buy a lot of things. For someone who builds physical stores, I buy a lot of things online. Um, oh, you know what? Actually, it was a pair of Sarah Flint pumps in the store
Ah,
after I opened it.
excellent. Question 3. If you and I were shopping at Target and I lost you, what aisle would I find you in?
Oh, okay. I love Target. It would be in that, like, the home goods organization section with, like, all the bins and, like,
Why my
the one that looks like the
wallet
Container
notes.
Store, but it's Target.
Yep,
That's where I would be.
got it. Very cool. Well, listen, I really appreciate this. This was excellent. Thank you so much. And
Thank you. This was so much fun.
let's continue to stay connected and chat.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you.
See you
All
again
right, well, that
soon.
was great. Thank
Yay! Thank you. All right, so when do these air? Because 'Cause I'll
you.
retweet it or whatever.
This I think this will air I think the 28th, but
Okay,
I'll let my team
cool.
know.
I'll keep an eye out.
Yes. Um, typically it's all audio and then the video, there'll be like some social media clips here and there.
Cool.
But we're not I'm like 140 episodes in and we need to get them where we upload everyone to YouTube, but we haven't done that
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should do that.
for now.
Okay.
We've got a lot of content though.
Great. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah. Anything I can answer for you, help you with, any thoughts, anything I can help you with?
Um,
I know on the spot, if not, no worries, you can get back to me, but happy to help in any way I can. Anything you're curious,
yeah.
my
I
perspective.
don't I don't think at the moment, but I mean, look, you have a ton of knowledge in the real estate sphere, so I would love to just like kind of keep reach out as a resource as I need it. Obviously, Shlomo is in there too, so
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things I remember one of the things that's I think where so a couple of things. One, we get a good lens to see what's so we're national. So we get a good lens to see what's working in most of the markets across the country.
Yep.
So it's not just like if you have one brand, you see like how are you doing? But we get a good feel of like how the consumers are reacting to a bunch of different brands and a bunch of different concepts, both from the product in the store and the type of location they have, the in-store experience,
Yep.
people in the store. So, and I would tell you, we're in commercial real estate, but we pride ourselves in knowing more about our tenants and the retailers than you know anybody. And so,
It's great.
one of the ways we're doing that is, majority of our days are speaking to retailers. Now, a lot of our retailers we're speaking to, I'm I'm in the value space, so
Mm,
right? So I own open air shopping centers. So who are my tenants? My tenants are from the big box. They're Costco, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, right? From the Lowe's and all the grocers. From the junior box, it's Dick's Sporting Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, Bed Bath and Beyond, the Nordstrom Racks of the world. And then even smaller, it's the Ultas, the Five Belows,
mm.
the large,
Yep.
right, the Dollar Trees of the world. I'm a large landlord of Starbucks, the GNCs, the Sally Beauties. So I have a lot of mature retailers, right?
Mm.
We have a lot of the interesting thing is I have about 3,000 tenants, but half of them are national, half of them are local. One of the things that was interesting, so entrepreneur call it 10 stores or less, someone who
Yep.
has, including restaurants.
Yep.
But majority, like majority of my income comes from the 50% of national. So,
Mm.
and
Makes sense.
I think that's an interesting thing. I think people of our scale, similar thing, which is like, there's a lot of talk that like we give like way too much attention to the Dollar Trees and the Five Belows and the Ultas versus the local retailer who's got one store,
Yep.
and that's because the economics make us, right,
Mm.
do
Mhm.
that, right? You know, um, Even if I only have one of a national retailer, I'm probably talking to them a lot more than I am the one local tenant in the market because to our wallets, they're
Yeah.
more meaningful, so
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All
So,
right.
yes,
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris. Bye.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe. See you in the next one.